Feeling today? I am wearing a Sassy Fairy shirt. I am out of COVID jail. I just did my 10-day quarantine, which, by the way, just for public information, New York State is still doing a 10-day quarantine unless you are an essential worker. And today is day 11, so I'm officially out of COVID jail, although I don't think I will leave my house today. I'm not aching to get back into Omicron Central. I'm just gonna, leave my house for work and stuff, although I'm glad I can. Hello, Ondine. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome back to the Witchy Weather Report. I know it's been a couple weeks since I've been here. I took a little holiday break. I am going to share this stream around a couple places because I am sure that people may have gotten out of the habit of showing up for the Witchy Weather Report. Meowing! Good meowing. So let me share this stream in a couple places so that people know what is happening. I will be reading to you today from the Wizard's Tarot by Barbara Moore and Mika Jansons. I hope I'm saying it right. Mieke. If anyone knows how to pronounce that name, that's the artist. Having volume issues again. Okay, well, I'm sharing the broadcast, so you have time. Or head over to Facebook if that helps. Or YouTube or Twitch. I'm in all the places. Hello, I see a couple people have tuned in already. How are you doing? Do me a favor. If you're tuned in, could you share this broadcast? Like anywhere you'd like to share it. Because I know the Witchy Weather Report has been off for a few weeks and I want to, remind people that I exist. Hello, Mary Jane. Welcome back indeed. Mary Jane, how are you feeling? Grayson, hello, good morning. Tiger, good meowing. Can't find you on Facebook. I am on Facebook. That's exactly why I tend to share it. I know it might be annoying that I take a couple extra minutes every morning when I do this to share the stream, but I have noticed that Facebook isn't great at it. I don't know what to tell you. So let me go to it and I'll share it in a couple places, but I'm glad you found me wherever you are tuned in from. Looks like you're on Twitch. Don't see a live link. I should, let me see what I see. I see it. I wonder if when you looked it wasn't live and now maybe it is. Because I know Facebook takes a few minutes to share that around. Hello, Melissa. Mary Jane says, COVID-free finally, so good. How are you feeling? Thank you for asking. I'm still a little congested, as you might be able to hear. But today is day 11, so I'm officially out of COVID jail. I think any of my symptoms are probably just residual, like my body resetting itself. I feel a lot better. Yeah. And I'm still not leaving the house today, but I will be leaving tomorrow for the first time in, I guess, 11 days for a rehearsal. So that's going to be excited. And still, masking up. A friend of mine has got her hands on some KN95 masks, which, if you haven't heard, Omicron is much more transmissible. Case in point, this vaxxed and boosted lady still managed to catch it despite being very careful. And the KN95 masks or N95 masks, either of those are really the best ones for it. The other masks may not be adequate to prevent transmission. I'm just a fountain of information today. Oh, thank you, Judith. Yes, I got this top from my friend Judith, and I'm wearing a Judith top today. I needed to feel a little bit sassalicious today because it's my first day back with the Witchy Weather Report, and one of my first, I've only been doing very sporadic live streams while I've been sick, so I needed to pump myself a little bit, pump myself up. Yeah. All right, so I'm reading to you today from the Wizard's Tarot. If you are a patron, this will also be our Patron Palooza deck for the day. You may not know this because I haven't been going live on Saturdays, but my patrons have been getting content every single day since January 1st because I'm doing something called Patron Palooza right now. And basically what that is I am going live every single day for my patrons, or not necessarily live, I'm pre-recording some of them, with a card of the day, and then like some interesting witchy related content. I've been sharing a lot of tarot content. Yesterday I did a live crash course in tarot for a friend who bought a new deck, and I just was like, hey, would you mind making this a video for my patrons? So that was like really fun. We did it on StreamYard. Yeah. So it's been really, really fun, and I've gotten through my first full week now. I've really gotten in the good habit, and this is going to continue every single day until the end of January. At which point, I don't know. People have been enjoying the card of the day. I might still do the card of the day, but I might just make it a simple, post type of thing. So it's been really fun. It has been a little bit of a time commitment, but I've been really enjoying it. It's felt like I am putting my energy where I want to be putting my energy. It's the first thing I do every day, unless I get ahead of it. Sometimes I'll do a couple in a day, and it feels good. It just feels really good to be the first focus every day is for my patrons. So several of you are patrons. Y'all know who you are, and I thank you and I love you, and this is what that's really about. I realized when I was looking back at 2021 that Patreon was really the thing in my life that felt the absolute best about my career. Like, I looked at what went right in 2021, and Patreon was like, it just felt so good. I had no reservations. I had no bad feelings. It just all felt good. And I was like, let me celebrate that. Let me go into 22 building on what feels great. So that's what Patron Palooza is all about. I'm doing it on my music Patreon as well. All right. I see some comments in here. Meowdy. Oh my goodness. You're just going to scroll by without saying meowdy. You're the best, Angie. Good morning. How are you? Anine said, yes, gave up on the cloth masks last week. Yeah, I have been, I haven't had to even think about it because I have been obviously in quarantine, but my friend who I'll be rehearsing with tomorrow got her hands on a batch of KN95, so she's going to give one to me, which is really nice. Glad you're feeling better. Thank you. Me too. I see some beautiful meows. I see, okay, Anna has scooched on over to Facebook. Good, you found it. Melissa Marie says, meowdy. Everybody's saying meowdy. Don't just scroll by without saying meowdy. Give us a meowdy. That's 2022 Witchy Weather Report vibes. Give me a meowdy. If you are new to the Witchy Weather Report, I will let you know that the way to get me to pull a card for you is to drop a cat in the chat, like a cat emoji, or to type the word meow. The reason we do that is because when people were just saying, please pull a card for me, we would get all kinds of spammers. They must search for that text. And y'all don't need that in your life in 2022 or any year. So yes, we use our cat code. I am reading today from the Wizard's Tarot by Barbara Moore and Mika Janssens, a name that I cannot pronounce, Mieke. If anyone knows how to pronounce that, Miki, Meek, Mike, Mika. I'm going with Mika, which is probably wrong. Maybe Mieke. I don't know. But that's the name of the artist for this tarot. This is the Wizard's Tarot. I don't read it very often, not for any good reason. It's a fairly new deck in my collection. It's really beautiful. It really has this nice witchy, like School of Witchcraft and Wizardry type of feel to it, which is my aesthetic. Okay, we got a round of meowdies coming through the chat. Mary Jane is saying, be super careful, vaxxed and boosted and got it anyway. Yeah, same here. And I happen to know where I picked up the Omicron, and it was from a less than 1 hour masked and distanced brunch with 2 family members. And that's amazing to me, but here we are, it's a brave new world or something. Saturday morning work vibes improved by sassiness. I'm glad to improve your sassiness. Judith says, meowdy is rowdy. Meowdy is the new throwing pies. All right. I'm going to pull our card for the week for us. If you have a particular question, please feel free to ask me before I pull your card. I'm happy to answer your, to target my reading for you to your specific question, to the best of my ability. Yeah, let's get rolling. Here's our card for the day, people. It's the Tower. This is my card for the year, by the way. Doesn't that look fun to get as your 2022 card? This is my guide card for the year. I pulled the Tower, and I will let you know, some of you have already gotten guide cards readings from me from 2022. It's a little more in depth than we go here on the Witchy Weather Report. I give you a full PDF report of kind of how you can harness this card's energy in your year. And that's really what it's about. It's not a predictive card. It is a card meant to guide you, meant to be a loving guide, meant to tell you what energy you should try to embody this year for you to have your best year, for your highest growth and your highest good. And the card that this witch got for 2022 is the Tower. So this is energy, this chaotic, destructive, flaming energy is the energy I am supposed to embody in 2022. I did a nice meditation on this card in the bath the other night, and where I kind of, when I go do a meditation around a tarot card, usually I kind of do a guided visualization where I go into the card and speak directly to any figures in the card. And I really got the feedback at that time that what I was meant to do was, the Tower is a card of chaos and destruction, and what I was meant to do is really destroy old beliefs that were not serving me, go back through my past and look at perhaps things that had influenced me to keep myself small or try to, fit the status quo and all of that stuff rather than be myself, and that it was really time to cut those cords dramatically and make sure that they don't come back. And that's like my task for this year, is really to free myself from the binds of the past. The Tower, yay. So let's talk about, this is a card for the week for us. These are the questions that come up for me. I want to show you, for starters, we see here's like a big, beautiful tower. It looks kind of Hogwartsy. It's like a, cool old-fashioned building. And it has been struck by lightning, and it is chaotically exploding and bursting into flames. And the Tower is a real stressful card. Many of us have been affected by its energy in the last 2 years. I think, the COVID pandemic can definitely be described as a Tower event, a large, chaotic event that comes seemingly out of nowhere and dramatically impacts our lives. The positives of the Tower is that it always teaches us, right? I think everyone I've talked to has learned something in the last 2 years, or maybe many things about themselves, about what they want, about who they want to be and how they want to live. The Tower teaches us a lot about ourselves. It teaches us about our strengths. It teaches us about who we are and who our best selves are. It brings us this blessed type of clarity. Anytime you have a chaotic event in your life like that, clarity does follow. There's a quote, and I don't remember where it's from, but the quote is, now that the barn has burned down, I can see the stars in the sky. And basically it brings us this clarity, and it brings us this deeper appreciation for what really matters in our lives. And my question to you is, are there things that could actually benefit in your life from some chaotic destruction? Are there areas in your life that have gotten stagnant, structures that are no longer serving you, relationships that are beginning to feel toxic rather than reciprocal and loving? And would it be to your benefit to harness just a smidge of this Tower energy to essentially stand up for what you believe to be right? Another thing that's positive that I associate with Tower is like social justice movements, right? Large scale protests. Another quote I will share with you from MLK, as MLK Day is coming up, the riot is the language of the unheard. I don't think anyone wakes up today and is like, I want to be violent and start a riot, except maybe white people when their soccer team wins. That's another story. But in general, when we get to the point of social unrest where large-scale protests are taking place and some of them turn into riots, we have such a big problem that the riot's the symptom, not the problem, right? Like, we need to address these larger social structure issues in order to move past a time, of stress and chaos and violence. And not that it's ever great to get there, but it's not the protesters' fault that the world is fucked up, right? Like, they have something important enough to them that they need to stand up and do that. So, what I'm saying here is that there's a positivity to come out of the tower. Sometimes chaotic change is what's needed because all of the nicey nice ways of change have been tried and not worked. So that's what I want to ask you. Are there areas in your life where you feel stuck because you've tried to be nice about it and being nice isn't working? I'm not telling you to go, please don't do anything dangerous. I'm not telling you to go destroy any property. I'm not telling you to go be violent, but I'm saying, is it time for you to maybe stop worrying about being nice and say, look, even if I'm a bitch, this has to stop. Because sometimes that's what the tower asks of us. And sometimes it's very transformative when we finally take that leap. I know actually that 2 of the people in the chat have also received the tower as guide cards in years past. And I watched how transformative it was for both of them. And I hope it's as transformative for me, even though it's a little terrifying. All right, I see some comments. I want to take a moment to address these comments, and I'm going to start to read through everybody's cards today. Ondine says, do I dare ask what today's Venus star point holds for me? Please tell me about the Venus star point, my astrology friends, because I don't know too much about it, and I would love to hear about it, and I'm sure everyone else would too. I was planning to ask how I can make the most of what is supposed to be an auspicious time. Oh, I love that. Oh, that's your specific question. I love it. Ondine also says, oh, damn straight. COVID-19 is the tower. Yeah, I think so too. All right, let's see who's in the chat. I see a bunch of people. I love Angie's response to the tower. Take down the phallus. I mean, honestly, yes, I would say every wave of feminism has been a tower response to the patriarchy, and I'm here for it. Like, every wave of feminism has brought us positive change. All right, let's see what we have here. All right, yes, everyone is making noise about the tower. Tower. There it is. Gasp, it's back. Yes, sorry, here we are. Bing bong. Keep that thing away from me. This girl is tired. Yeah, well, here we are. Judith says there is a high rise in San Francisco that's tilting over. My goodness, I hope everyone is safe. That's really stressful. But sounds a little cute and funny. Hey, Courtney, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm so glad to see you. Time to throw the ring into the Tower of Mordor. Melissa says, I feel like I've run out of barns to burn down, but I guess I can go find another if anyone can. And Emily says, mood. Courtney says, we mostly build our own barns. We just need better tools to take them down fast. I would say that's somewhat true. But I think also, like, on a societal level, if we're going to talk about barns needing to be burned down, I do, like, big things come to mind, like capitalism and financial inequity and the patriarchy and structural racism. And I think it's reasonable to say that none of us who are alive today actively built those. Perhaps we have shored them up, through our actions, often, without realizing it, like subconsciously. I think it's very important for us to kind of do our shadow work and ask ourselves how we may be contributing to these negative structures without meaning to, because that's the nature of them. They are insidious. They get in your head. But I think it's safe to say, like, these are things that have been around societally for a long time, and they're also things that are very worth doing our part to tear down. And as you said, Courtney, when we build our own barns, yeah, it'd be nice to have the tools to build them, to tear them down faster. When it comes to big structural societal issues, as one person, we may feel we have no power. But I do believe that as one person, when we stand up and say, this isn't right, I'm going to do my small part to do something about it, that's a powerful action, and it can inspire other people. And it also allows you to live right in your heart. And if enough people do that, right, it does create change. There's another quote, and I don't know who said this one, but the quote is basically, never doubt that a small committed group of people can change the world. Indeed, that is the only thing that ever has. And if you look at social justice movements, I think I really believe that quote. I agree with it. All right, let's see what else we have. At least Trump canceled his rally on the 6th. Yes, we have some for whatever it's worth. Barn dance. Courtney says, yes, that's exactly my point. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sometimes it's true. And usually too with the tower, like usually we have gone blithely into something, perhaps with best intentions, right? And later realize, oh, this got out of hand and it's no longer serving me, I'm serving it, and it doesn't feel good, right? And it is healthy to look at that and be like, okay, this I gave it my fair shot, it's not working out, time to tear it down. I'm clearly working to burn down all the crappy dudes on dating websites right now. Y'all, if you don't follow Melissa on Facebook, you are missing out because she's been posting her ridiculous dating website experiences. And I'm so sorry that you have to have them, but oh man, it has been entertaining for me to read those. Yes, Tiananmen Square chillin'. Yes. Ruin is the road to transformation. Eat, pray, love is the source of that quote. It's really very true. All right. I see a couple of comments on Instagram too. Oh, Ondine's laughing at your comment. Angie, the phallus must come down. And Mary Jane says, workplace imploding as management turns on each other and female attorneys are being scapegoated. Ugh. Tower office, I am quietly working to get out. Good for you. And sometimes that is the right thing for you to do. Sometimes you need to just take care of yourself, because here's another quote. We put our own oxygen mask on so that we can help others. We put our own mask on first because if we are gasping for breath, we cannot be of good service, right? And it is worth it for you to take care of you first. And also refusing to turn on coworkers despite urging to do so by new evil boss. Good for you. Good for you for not giving into that culture of enmity. I have witnessed toxic workplace cultures like that go down, and it sucks. All right, let's see what everyone is saying. Courtney says, I'm dealing with that too. I am sending good energy to you. Work is my tower. True for a lot of people. So I'm going to ask you to turn that tower energy right back where you can. What can you do to create change? What can you do to stand up for yourself? I'm not telling you to do something that'll get you fired if you rely on your job. I know you have to be careful, but I am asking yourself if you can do something with that fire, with that energy. Okay, I know we have various questions. I think the first person who tuned in was Ondine, and Ondine had a particular question, so let me pull a card for her. But first, hydration checkpoint. Stay hydrated, kids. Okay, let's see. I was not meaning for this witchy weather report to be like a rally against the status quo, but here we are. All right. Do I dare ask what today's Venus star point holds for me? I was planning to ask how I can make the most of what is supposed to be an auspicious time. Okay. I'm going to pull that card for you now, Ondine, who says, I have frequently used that same analogy of the oxygen mask. Yeah, I think it's important. I confused myself in my shuffling. The monster hurts itself in its confusion. Okay, I'm good. This is a pretty new deck, so I haven't even shuffled it all that much. It's got this beautiful background with this like fabulous crystal that's all lit up with an inner glow and a dragon snuggling it like a cat will snuggle something warm. Yeah, dragons are like cats. That's my headcanon. Okay, Ondine, what does today's Venus point hold for you, and what can you do to make the most of this auspicious time? The answer is the Emperor. And we have talked a few times. I have had strong, badass women get the Emperor as a card, and this really is about stepping into leadership in your own life, claiming your truth as valid and something worth laying down the law for. Laying down the law is a big part of the Emperor. I was just talking on Patron Palooza yesterday with my friend Bree about the Emperor, and how we can choose to view it as a healthy expression of what traditionally is viewed as sacred masculinity. You know how I feel about genderific stuff within the tarot and elsewhere, but what that means here is leadership and authority, right? Owning your authority, speaking clearly, and refusing to back down when you know you are right. Now, I think you can all look at those qualities and see how they could both be beneficial and toxic. And that's true of many things, right? I'm asking you to go to the light side, the Jedi Knight side here, and own these qualities. Yes, Undine says, in other words, own it. Own these qualities of leadership, own your authority, own your wisdom, really inhabit them and really speak with authority, because it is well past time, and because in so doing you can actually help others than just yourself. It is beneficial for you. It's what you need to do to claim kind of the life that you deserve and the treatment you deserve at this time. But it also, the act of you doing it, the act of you standing strong, will inspire others and will make others feel safe to do the same. All right. We have some other... Who else is in the chat? Let's see who came in first. All right. Mary Jane, did you have a particular question for me? Let me know. I haven't seen one from you, I don't think. I know you've been on Insta and Facebook. I'm scrolling to see if you asked a particular question. I'm just seeing everyone shout about the tower, which is great. Okay, I don't see a particular question, so I'm going to pull a card for you, my darling. Mary Jane, here's your card. It is the Devil. All right, let's talk today about the things, about your shame stories, about the things that trigger you, about your, I know this isn't good for me, but it's what I do when I am, when I've run out of gas and I'm not feeling good. Those type of habits. And I really don't, this is not a card about shaming. This is actually a card about shadow work. I'm not here to tell you what to do and not do. I am here to ask you if you are willing to invite your shadow to tea this week. If you are willing to look at some of these darker stories in your own mind, the negative voice inside your head, the fear stories that may come forward for you when you are trying to grow and trying to better your life, and run into resistance, as we inevitably do. I want to ask you if you are willing to sit down with those stories and neither argue nor agree, to just hear them. Here are your impulses, maybe impulses that you feel slightly ashamed of. People talk about guilty pleasures. I don't think any pleasure needs to be guilty. I think it's wonderful to take pleasure, and that's the point of life. Which isn't to say that we can't still have discernment and responsibility, right? But I want you to just those things that inspire those feelings in you. Maybe this week is the opportunity to dig deeper in those things with a real attitude of compassion to yourself, to ask yourself, okay, is there something maybe in my past that has made me feel this way? And is there work I need to do around this? Sometimes what we actually need to do is just lose the shame around certain things. For example, around punishing ourselves with good foods and bad foods. Right now, we have a lot of that flying around the internet. Sometimes what we actually need to do is lose the shame and allow ourselves to be human. Sometimes those stories are really rooted in shame. And it's not just about diet culture, although it's one of my favorite targets to complain about lately. There's, women face all kinds of body shaping, kind of no matter what size or shape we are, body shaming, and slut shaming, and, speaking up shaming. Women tend to be viewed more as bossy bitches rather than authoritative people speaking their minds, when expressing themselves in a powerful way. And my point being, whatever stories you have that are adding to your shame and struggle rather than helping you at times when you need help, maybe it's time to dig into those stories and ask yourself, is there a reason this came? Is there a message underlying it that maybe is good, right? Maybe at its heart, that negative voice in your head is just trying to protect you. And is there a way you can have a gentle conversation with it and be like, I know you're trying to protect me, but this is not actually what I need right now. So thank you for your concern, and I'm going to go and do my own thing. Is there a way that you can have gentle conversations, rather than either get into a fight or be beaten down by these negative ideas in your head? That is my question for you today with the Devil. It's a powerful card, and I will let you know the Devil is also a card of mine for 2022. Not my guide card, but my I don't know, numerology year card, which is a bit predictive, I think. You get the numbers by adding together your birthday and the year and adding and reducing those numbers until you get a number less than 22. And I have landed at the devil. So obviously I have to grapple with some of those stories myself. And with the tower as my guide card, I have some advice on how to do that. Mary Jane says, gained weight since COVID. Well, girl, like, you're sick. You shouldn't be thinking about your figure when you're sick. Actually, I don't think anyone needs to be thinking about their figure ever. I think we can instead be thinking about our health, right? And that can mean different things for different people. But I really don't want you to feel shame around, like, just taking care of your body when you're sick, you know? There are things that benefit us when we're sick. Some people lose weight when they're sick, but I do know that COVID responds well to vitamin D, and vitamin D cannot be processed without the intake of fat. So that's just an interesting thing for you. We really do demonize fat, and it's actually something that our body needs to process certain essential nutrients. Anyway, I'm here to tell you, please don't shame yourself. You know, please do whatever you think is appropriate for your health, because it's not my place to tell you what that is. You know your body much more intimately than I do, but please don't shame yourself. That's my request to you. All right. Judith says the devil can also be humor. Yes, I'm here to tell you, you can expect a lot of gallows humor from me in 2022. Don't worry. Okay. Let's see who else is on deck over here. Mary Jane says, I ate whatever felt right and no exercise, so I will let go of the shame. Yeah. You know, it's really like you can't, and I put pressure on myself in a different way during COVID. Like, I didn't stop working. I didn't leave the house and gig because I, of course, couldn't, but I had my regular work schedule. You know, people were like, I hope you're resting. And I'm like, LOL, I have my regular work schedule. I took 2 days off a week, which is big for me. I've only been doing that for the last year or so. And I worked my regular schedule because work is a part of my life and what I do means a lot to me. And in some ways that's healthy for me. But I did find myself putting pressure on myself to be productive. And I'm like, you have friggin' COVID. The most important thing is to get well, you know? So I'm just going to remind you to allow yourselves, all of you, to deal with whatever is in your life without putting extra pressure on yourself to, like, and also I have to achieve something. We're all getting through a really rough time right now. All right. Let's see who else needs a card. Very preachy this morning. All right. Grayson is up next. Grayson has dropped some cats in the chat. I'm going to just scan through and see if they might have any particular question. I don't see anything, but I'm checking. I always like to check. Scrolling through the chat. Anna says, happiness can feel foreign to a great many of us. I really understand. And I do think sometimes that, like, self-empowering, like, positivity language can actually be disempowering. When people tell you, like, you know, seize the day, just smile, be joyful. And it's like, if you are so far from joyful that it would take a lot of leaps to get to joyful, that advice almost feels shaming, right? It's like, what's wrong with me that I can't feel joyful? And I think that we are allowed at those times to just be like, okay, if I'm feeling subhuman right now, like, maybe asking myself to be joyful is a big leap, and maybe I could just try to address changing subhuman into a human existing right now. You know, maybe I could just go 1 level up instead of 5. And it says, I want to say fuck off. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? There are times when it is appropriate not to be happy. There are times when our lives are stressful, and when we are actively working to create change around that, when just being happy about what we have isn't appropriate, you know, when we actually have to do the work and create the change. And that's not always a happy process, because growth doesn't always look like unicorns and rainbows, right? And fuck toxic positivity. Like, let's not do that. You know, let's show up for ourselves compassionately instead. All right, Grayson, here is your card. Grayson's card is the Hanged Man. Okay, so the things you have been trying to progress with feel stymied at this point. I know, for example, you were starting a new school semester, I want to say, this semester. And we have the Hanged Man here. I don't know if that's the particular thing that may be stymieing you. I know you have other goals in your life. But we have this sense of, why am I not making progress? And literally there's a sense of, there's nothing I can do. This is the weather right now. And that's a correct feeling. So I want you to please not beat yourself up right now about like, why can't I make progress? The truth is that right now circumstances are such that, things have slowed down for you. Often this is benevolent timing. Often this is a good thing and gives you an opportunity to consider something or allow circumstances to change such that when you look out again as things have shifted, you're like, oh, you know what? The thing I was going to do no longer makes sense, and I'm glad I didn't move ahead with it. So this is an opportunity for you to practice surrender. It's an opportunity to trust that perhaps this timing is actually benevolent timing, to not put pressure on yourself to push through anyway, but to allow yourself to ask yourself if you can just engage with what is, if you can experience what is happening around you and allow it to exist, and just be kind to yourself in this space. This is a real opportunity to practice self-compassion. And those are the things I invite you to do this week. Hey, Noreen, how are you doing? Welcome to the Witchy Weather Report. Thank you for tuning in. For anyone who has tuned in lately, I will remind you, if you would like me to pull a card for you, I got you. And it's okay with me if I go a little past 12 today. I usually do 11 to 12, whoever I can get to in that time. But today I am not going anywhere, so I don't mind if it's a little bit of a longer Witchy Weather Report. If you would like me to pull a card for you, drop a cat in the chat. That's our secret code. Put a cat emoji in the chat or write the word meow, and I will know to pull a card for you. And we do that because when we first started and people were saying, please pull a card for me, we'd get all kinds of spammers. I don't want spammers for you. I don't want spammers for me. So I just use this cat code, which is adorable and fun. I'm going to take a sip of water, then we're going to get to our next human. Melissa says Tower riled us up and it took longer today. It's true. Also, I feel like this is a catch up. Like, I've been away from you guys for 2 weeks. I'm really, really glad to be back. I'm also grateful that I took that time for myself, that I allowed myself as a self-employed person to take time off, which is not something I'm good at, as you know. So I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad to be reconnecting with all y'all. All right. Let's see. We've got Tiger, and I think Tiger did have a question. Let me scroll down and take a look and see. Is that a little tiger thinking emoji, Tiger? I love that. That's very cute. Man, Twitch has the best emojis. Okay. Scrolling. 50% of this broadcast is me scrolling. I'm sorry. Okay, question. How to come to grips with pricing my crafts. Oh my gosh, I've been seeing your crafts, Tiger, as they come across my news feed on Facebook, and they're so beautiful. And I just want to tell you, price them highly because they're worth it, because they're very well made and they're very pretty. Whether the new line will be profitable and not just breaking even, I'm tired of feeling like this is just a sideline and not significant. I really love everything about your question, and I'm going to pull a card for you right now. Also, I don't know if you have an Etsy shop or a link that you can share with people that showcases your crafts, but if so, please drop it in the chat, because I would love to signal boost it. And friends, this is a wonderful place to buy a gift for yourself or a friend. Support independent creators. Okay, here is your card. Your card is the World. I want you at this time to, you talked about this particular line, so it sounds like you've got a new line you're working on. How to make it not be just a side hustle thing, how to make it be real and significant, how to come to grips with your pricing around it. And the World says that the tarot is pointing you back to your past. It's pointing you to look back the way we do at the epilogue of a book and ask yourself what you have learned, what has and has not worked in the past. Often, and I think this is especially true when it comes to people in the arts trying to make money, we are ruled by we make these decisions kind of emotionally, and that's normal, by the way. Like, humans are emotional creatures and our brains are powerful computers, but we also make a lot of decisions that are not rational, and this has been documented. So let's not put pressure on ourselves to be computers. Let's instead empower ourselves and let that be the emotion that is driving our decisions. I want you to look back at what has felt really empowering to you around pricing and around creating and around, selling your work, and what has felt really disempowering to you. And I want you to just look at that. And I don't even know if I want you to get to the point yet of making new decisions. Just look at what has and hasn't worked in the past and think about it, maybe journal about it a little bit, and see if there are patterns you can recognize. Are there maybe mistakes? Are there areas where you tend to repeatedly devalue yourself even though you know better? And can you find the courageousness to make a new choice around that? To just like close your eyes and do it and like spit out like the high price that you're afraid to name or whatever it may be, and just like hit enter, before you have the chance to chicken out. Is there a possibility of you making some new choices? And you can treat it like an experiment. You can treat it, when we try to break free of these old patterns, it can be very, very scary. And I can speak to this as someone who is a creator, making a living with her creation, with her art and her, content. I can tell you that it's hard. It's like there's a mental health facet to this, and there's like shame stories around this, around like, am I worthy? Like, who am I to make money doing what I love? Those kind of questions. And those are things we have to grapple with. And I found that it's helpful to treat working with those ideas as experiments rather than, it gets very scary to my mind if I'm like, I'm going to change this. From now on, I'm doing this. I'm valuing myself. That feels like a big, scary thing to say. But if I say, I'm going to experiment this week by acting as though I believed this, then that week happens. And if it's a good experiment, I have ammunition to say, oh, that worked. Now I can make the emotional choice of like, yeah, that felt good and I want more of it. And it feels easier to go forward if I treat it as like a baby step. I'm going to try this week instead of like, I'm going to change everything about my beliefs right now. That's like really a lot of pressure to put on ourselves. So, and the reason the world suggests this is the world is about the end of a chapter. It is about the time before you move into the new chapter, where you look back, where you gain the lessons from what you have gone through, where you're no longer responding or reacting, you're reflecting, which, by the way, it's a great time to do because we have Mercury retrograde coming up. Has it started yet? I'm not sure, but I know one's coming up at the beginning of the year. And it says, thank you. You're very welcome. Okay. And Grayson says, thanks, Rory. Sounds like my job right now. Yeah, I feel that. Okay, who's next? Do. Mary Jane. I got you, Mary Jane. Yes, I did. Okay, yes, you got the devil. Melissa Marie. I know you had a question. I'm going to scroll down and find it. Oh, thank you so much. I was talking about my Patreon before, and Melissa said, being a patron is worth every penny, and it's not even that many pennies. Thank you so much. The rumors are true. You can be a patron of mine for $1 a month or more, and right now in January, I'm doing content every day. It's Patron Palooza. But even when not, I have an active Discord server you get to be a part of. It's a really supportive witchy community, kind of like this vibe here on the Witchy Weather Report, but every day. And you get like bonus content, early access to my podcasts, things like that. So thank you, Melissa. You're marvelous. And the link is scrolling across the bottom, by the way, or if you're on Instagram, it is in my bio. It's patreon.com/Sassafras Tarot. All right, let me see your question, Melissa. Sorry, I got distracted into self-promotion. Okay, my question is not really a question. I had a date last night. I had a super great time. So obviously now I'm conflicted and confused because I don't let myself have nice things without analyzing them into the ground. Melissa face. So what do the cards have to say? I love this, Melissa. And by the way, I want to share with you all, when some of you have done readings with me and you know what I ask for in a reading is like, just give me a brain dump of like why you're consulting the cards. You don't have to have a clear question unless you do, and I'll take it. And I literally appreciate when people give me a brain dump, because it's context that lets me really help the energy of the cards, address your question. And that is a beautiful brain dump, Melissa. Okay. Here's your card. It's the Tower. All right. I want to talk about the Tower in context here. You talked about how you don't let yourself have nice things without analyzing them into the ground. I want to ask you what it would be like to chaotically say no to that impulse. And I know I just talked about how we're human and it's okay if this needs to be baby steps for you, but I want to ask yourself if maybe it's time to dig deeper and ask yourself, why do I need to analyze things into the ground when I feel happy? This is maybe an opportunity for shadow work, and you may find that it's rooted in some kind of shame story, some kind of insecurity story that comes from, I don't know, maybe something you experienced when you were younger, or maybe cumulative things you experienced when you were younger, kind of creating a story in my mind like, I can't have nice things, there's got to be a catch, right? And I wonder if you can look at that now and like stomp your fucking foot and be like, okay, I'm a different person than when I went through those things. I have learned many things and I don't have to believe this anymore. Perhaps that was a faulty conclusion, and perhaps what I really needed to do all along was value myself more. And if I want to know if you can like look at those episodes from the past and apply that chaotic Tower energy of like, fuck that, I want to know if you can respond to those stories with, fuck that. That's nonsense. Go right to hell and move on with your life. Like, not feel you even have to prove it. Just decide that you are worth not believing that anymore. That is perhaps the task that the Tower has to you. That is the barn for you to burn down today. Melissa says, no. Courtney has just dropped an epilogue, I think from before when we were talking about the world. Oh, Anna says, gah. Yeah, I know. I'm like asking everyone to do shadow work this week, basically, and I'm sorry. But I will tell you, I think that's what we all need in 2022. I think all of us want to have a better year. And we have looked around and noticed that, like, the universe is not going to hand us a better year. And I think what we need to do is do the shadow work to ask ourselves, how can I friggin' have one anyway? How can I give myself what I need more? And if that's me doing some inner work so that I can show up for myself better when the world is like, then maybe that's what needs to happen. I think that that's maybe an important takeaway for this beginning of 22 in the context of where we are as a planet. Courtney has dropped an epilogue in here. Epilogue. Rosalind. I never remember how to pronounce it. It is not the fashion to see the lady of the epilogue, but it is no more unhandsome than to see the lord of the prologue. If it be true that good wine needs no bush, 'tis true that a good play needs no epilogue. Yet, to good wine they do use good bushes, and good plays prove the better by the help of good epilogues. What a case am I, then, that I am neither a good epilogue nor cannot insinuate with you in the behalf of a good play. I am not furnished like a beggar. Friggin' Shakespeare, comedian of his time. Courtney's got a question. No, I love it. Courtney says, English and theater major, As You Like It is the perfect... It was As You Like It. Thank you. I couldn't play it. I'm like, Rosalind? Where's that from? Is the perfect shadow movie. Yeah, no, I love it. And I love that you share that. And I love getting to read Shakespeare aloud, because I think that's how the words come across the best. It can feel a little daunting, I think, to just see on a page and realize what a funny guy he was and how he was constantly poking fun at himself and everyone else. Or play if you're a reader like me. Okay, anyway, who is up next? Who's my next victim? Who shall I next recommend stressful shadow work to? Let's find out. Okay, we got Tiger, we got Mary Jane, we got Melissa. Judith, it is your turn, my love. Do we have a particular question? Let me see if Judith asked a question. Meowdy is rowdy. Do. Okay. Judith just emphatically says meow. No question. Okay. Oh, yes. Courtney says she disguises herself as a man to prove herself. Yeah, that is such... I'm actually reading a book right now, like a fantasy book. Or maybe it's like a fantasy historical fiction book. Anyway, where there's that cliche of the female character dressing up like a man in order to live the life she wants rather than the life that is prescribed to her. And it's fairly well done. But... yeah, that's a really interesting thing to explore, that we're still seeing people write about that, and we're still seeing people explore that. Like, we have come far, but we have not come far enough. Okay. Judith. By the way, don't worry. If you have put a cat in the chat, if you have asked for a card, don't worry, I got you. And if you haven't yet, and you're like, is it too late? It's not too late. I got you. I'm staying as long as we want today. Judith, Temperance is your girl this week. Let me talk to you. Look at this beautiful card. I just love it. We have a flaming infinity symbol here. We have this beautiful wizard lady who is pouring 2 cups. One is a golden chalice, kind of alchemical vibes here, or maybe it's just really good beer. And one is pure water into this infinity symbol. She is pouring 2 different things into this thing, and it's creating this flaming alchemy of an infinity symbol. What does that mean? It means that more than one perspective is needed right now for you to thrive and for you to create what you wish to create in your life. This is not a time to be like the Chariot, for example, to be like blinders and be like, my way or the highway. This is a time for you to honor multiple truths. That's something beautiful about our complicated emotional human brain, is that we can hold 2 truths in it at once, right? We can hold the idea that, for example, that fuck gender roles because they hold us back. And we can also hold the idea that sometimes strong women in fiction dress up as men for their own betterment, and that's what allows them to live the life that they want, even though at the end of the day, fuck gender roles, right? We can hold both those ideas in our heads. We can hold 2 ideas that seem to conflict and make room for both, and it can broaden our lives when we realize that situations are more nuanced and complex than we believe. And as we are in a time right now of like non-stop Facebook wars about current events, where it seems that people really want to dig in their heels, and I'm aware of this impulse in myself of like, I don't want to seem like an anti-vaxxer. I don't want to seem like the opposition. I don't want to seem like whatever, you know, a Republican or something. And so I'm thinking about my words that way, about how I come off, instead of thinking calmly about like, well, can I have a nuanced understanding of this, right? And it is worth us taking a step back from the kind of vitriolic type of expression that has really cropped up in our lives so much more than usual as social media has taken over, especially in these last 2 years when we've been seeing each other on the internet, sometimes more than in person. And to allow for situations to just be friggin' complicated, to allow for us to acknowledge like, yeah, this is true, and also this is true, and it's complicated, and we just have to muddle through the best we can. And usually when we acknowledge that complication, and it allows us to kind of calm down and take decisions for as small as they are. Making one decision today, you can just do your best with it, and you don't have to make it be the big final decision of your entire life. And you might make a very different decision tomorrow, and both might be right. So, temperance, my love, temperance. Judith says, looks like flaming boobs. Thank you for your contribution, Judith. I love you. Chaka has dropped a cat. Absolutely. I will get to you. I'm still like a few people ahead of you, but yes, absolutely. And I see you too, Courtney. Don't worry. Okay, who's next? Who's next is a hydration checkpoint while I scroll. Angie says meowdy. Angie, did you have a particular question? I'm scrolling to see. Do 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 do. I don't think I see a question from Angie. Okay, cool. All right, pulling a card for you. Angie, my love, it's your old friend the devil. Here is the devil. You will notice in this deck, like, the devil's kind of a conventionally good-looking guy. He's not really my type, but I think there was an effort made in this deck to make the devil look kind of like a hottie. And I think that's important because our fear stories, our habits that we know do not serve us, our, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, there's a word and it's escaping me. Anyway, us choosing to go down the dark path, and we all know what that is for us, right? Us choosing to spiral or choosing to kind of go to the dark side. It's not acknowledged that there's real allure in that. And it really speaks to our shame and worthiness triggers. And a lot of the negativity that we get caught up in come from this alluring idea of, like, you can be better, you can be lovable, just change this about yourself. Like those kind of, I think especially with like women's magazines where we see that type of falsely empowering stuff of like, all you have to do is change this and that about your appearance and pay us a good money to do so, and then you will be beautiful and desirable. There's a hook in it. The hook is, you're not worthy now, but if you do what I say, you will be worthy. And that's what hooks us into our shame stories. Yes, absolutely. Courtney says temptation. And so I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked Mary Jane earlier. I'm going to ask you to sit down to tea with your particular devil and perhaps like acknowledge the sexiness of that devil. Like maybe we can be real with ourselves and be like, yeah, I am really friggin' like drawn in by that. That really presses a button for me. That's like, oh man, because honestly, it wouldn't be an inner demon if it didn't press a button deep in us. And we can acknowledge like, yeah, I'm human. Like there's something about that really does it for me. And when we kind of put it out like that, right? When we're like, yes, I have analyzed this situation and yeah, like that's kind of a hot situation for me. That's why, that's why I'm drawn into this thing, even if maybe it's against my better judgment. And then when we're able to do that and just lay it on the table, like, yes, I recognize the strong pull this has on a particular part of my psyche or whatever, then we can make an informed choice. Then we can be like, okay, well, I have this strong pull on the one hand. I have this kind of intellectual idea on the other hand. There's probably a third and fourth hand that are also weighing in, right? Like there's probably many truths about this or many ideas about this weighing in our heads. And when we kind of get them all out there and acknowledge to ourselves, like, yeah, this is not just a simple choice. This is a weighted choice for me. And I'm going like, that's when we have power. That's when we have the power, because we as human beings can hold multiple ideas in our heads at once, and we have the power to make a thoughtful choice. And honestly, sometimes the thoughtful choice is the devil, right? Sometimes the thoughtful choice is, whatever, I've had a friggin' horrible day, and it is, and maybe it's not great in the long term for me to, I don't know, use this particular coping method. But for right now at 8 o'clock when I've had the worst day in the world, you bet I am going to go get some crappy takeout and have a glass of wine. And if you don't do that every day, doing it once, maybe as a self-soothing activity, even if it's not perfect, you know what? If it gets you through the day and helps you lift your mood, sometimes it's friggin' okay. Multiple truths. We can make one choice one day and a different choice the next, and it doesn't throw everything out the window. We don't have to do everything perfect all the time in order for it to count. Judith says, flinging pies of annoyance at shaming this. Angie has a telephone emoji, like, of course, were you literally on a call the second I pulled your card? That's really funny. Anyway, I hope this will stay up, so you can always rewind, because I know I said some thoughtful stuff, and I don't want to try to regurgitate it. I want you to just hear what I actually said. You can definitely go back and hear it. And I don't know if you can rewind on a Facebook Live, but I know you can on a YouTube Live, and this is on YouTube too. So you can even do that while I'm live, I believe. All right, who's next? Who's my next victim? Who shall I next invite to do intense shadow work today? That seems to be the name of the game today. This Tower week. That's our card of the day, by the way. If you joined late, our card of the week this week is the Tower. It's time for us to chaotically engage with structure and decide what stays and what gets torn down. All right, we had Angie saying meowdy. I got Tiger. I know there's some more humans. Emmy, did you want a card? I saw that you're in the chat, but I didn't see a cat from you, so please let me know. Courtney, I know you're on deck at some point. Let me see if you're the next person. When did you drop a cat? All right, Courtney, I'm going to pull a card for you. And do you have a particular question? I'm scrolling down to see. Ooh, speaking of which, here's a comment from Courtney I missed before. Last time I tuned in, I have lyrics inspired by your wording of this card. Oh, I love that. I'll fix my crown, turn this upside down, karma's come around with these islands down. I absolutely love it. And by the way, Courtney, I just want to tell you, I'm such a fan of your like musical glow up since deciding that you don't need men to propel your music career, and you can just have a great music career as yourself as a solo female. Like, I just want to tell you, I've been watching that happen on the internet, and I'm just like, yes, queen, do it. I just wanted to let you know that. Anyway, okay. About to pull a card for Courtney. I don't think I see a question. Unless she just asked one. Cool. Okay, here's your card. Courtney says, thank you. It's terrifying. Yeah, it always is. Asserting our independence is always terrifying, and that's why a lot of us do it, and that's why it feels like the tower. Because the truth of the tower is that when structures, and this can be social structures or like stories in our brain, you know, that psychological structures or literal structures, when structures restrict us and tell us that doing certain things is bad, that really affects us psychologically. And we feel like by taking one step out of line, we are like burning down the world. And often that's just a feeling. Often when we make even a small shift to show up for ourselves better in spite of what the status quo is saying, it feels very revolutionary and actually isn't that hard. It's just getting over the hump of like, oh God, do I dare to do this? And when we dare, we can change our lives so dramatically. Oh, there is a question. Okay, I need this work. Oh, sorry, let me find the question. I missed it. Or did you mean you were about to ask it? Okay, I'm scrolling. I'm scrolling carefully. Looking at every Courtney comment. Here's your epilogue. Question. Okay. Will my value ever get the recognition it deserves in what I know I can do, although others constantly downplay my abilities? That's kind of funny. I hadn't seen that comment, and I feel like I just was like pumping you up about that topic. I want to say before I even consult the cards, I want to say the answer is yes, and please believe in yourself and act as if it's true and keep doing it. But I'm going to also consult the cards because that's what you came here for. But I'm just like desperate for you to believe in yourself. Please do. You're so strong. Okay, 7 of Cups is the answer to your questions. Here's what this tells me. There are a lot of competing things in your mind right now, both competing values and ideas about what it takes to succeed, and perhaps about how you want to succeed, about how you want that success to look. And right now, maybe appropriately, because you just got out of like the equivalent in the musical world of like a bad long-term relationship. You know, like you just got out of something that you thought you had hitched your wagon to and thought was the path for you. So right now there's a lot and you're like, wow, there are so many options, right? And maybe so many things I have to do to make this happen. And it can feel very daunting. And you are being encouraged right now to look at these multiple choices and maybe narrow down your focus a little bit. The 7 of Cups, you can see like all these beautiful glowing cups, and they have all these like nifty arcane symbols. There's like a spiral. There's this thing here that looks like maybe a timer. There's a beautiful crescent moon here. This weird little triangle doohickey over here. There's like a lot of interesting things in these cups. And this wizard is like, honestly, the 7 of Cups, have you seen the meme where there's like the blonde girl and she's like got a fork full of waffles she's about to take a bite of, and there's like 50 people around her also offering her different waffles, and she's like, which waffle do I eat? That's the 7 of Cups. That meme is that card. And that's kind of your life right now. There's a lot of options and a lot of opportunities for you. And you are probably in this headspace of like, oh God, if I pick one, it might be wrong and it will mess me up and I can't close a door and I have to be careful to make, because I really want success and any of these are fine. And what that can do is really stymie us. So I'm going to encourage you. Yes, I'm eating all. I mean, and please eat all the waffles. Waffles are delicious. I'm going to encourage you to narrow your focus. And I'm also going to empower you with the idea that that doesn't have to be a permanent choice, because I don't like the narrative that we are not allowed to have more than one interest, like the narrative that like you can't be a jack of all trades or someone who has many creative pursuits. I think you should honor your creativity in whatever forms it takes. But for this moment, what would it look like to just narrow your focus just for the sake of going, I'm going to give special attention to this one thing for a little while. And it can be an experiment, right? You can feel free to change that decision if a few weeks go by and you're like, okay, I did that and it felt kind of good, but maybe this is not the ish, and then move on to the next thing. And what you're doing in that is not dishonoring all the other choices. It's saying, I'm going to honor these choices, but the only way I can do that is one at a time. Because if I'm spread too thin, if I spend 15 minutes a day on 8 projects, it's very difficult for me to make real progress on any of them. So let me choose what my real progress will be now. Let me narrow that focus, even if it's kind of an artificial eeny, meeny, miny, mo choice, just for the sake of being able to give my all to something. And then I'll give my all to the next thing. It does, like I said, it can feel really daunting to be like, God, I don't want to close the door or burn a bridge. It doesn't have to be a permanent choice. It can just be what you do right now. Like, let me give this my full attention and see if I can take it far. Judith says, did somebody say waffles? I love your chat persona, Judith. Thank you all for being. Oh, I love it. Courtney says, I'm seeking empowering justice for proven abilities. I'm unfortunately never taken seriously in any facet, work, life, family. Then here's what I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you if there's a way you can take yourself more seriously and act as if you expect to be taken seriously. And I know that's hard, and I don't want to imply that it's your fault you're not taken seriously, because like women are shat on in society in so many ways. And I believe that you are facing that problem and that it's real and it's not your fault. But I do want to encourage you to say, it stops with me. And what I mean by that is, okay, if I'm facing something where I am not taken seriously and people are viewing me as less capable than I truly am and underestimating me, certainly I have faced that and it annoys the shit out of me in my life many times. I want you to say it stops with me. I want you to say, regardless of whether these people in my life are not taking me seriously and my goals and my dreams and my abilities, I will take me seriously and I will act as if it is as serious as a fucking heart attack. I am going to take this as far as it can go, and I'm going to show up with my all and disregard the people who are not taking me seriously. Because a big thing I have found is that when we spend our time arguing with people who we have to prove ourselves to, it's usually ourselves that we have to prove ourselves to. We have to show up and have that argument with ourselves. Otherwise, we wouldn't need to have the argument, right? If we walked by someone and someone was like vehemently like, the sky is purple and everyone who says it's blue is sheeple and you're nonsense, and you're like, the sky is fucking blue, you're not even going to waste your time arguing with that guy because what he says is so obviously nonsense. You're just going to be like, he's got a rough time. I'm going to let him, I'm going to leave him be. I'm going to give him a wide berth, hope he feels better, right? And we should get to that point when people devalue us. When people devalue us and don't take us seriously and like nag us, we should be at the point where it's so absurd to us that we're just like, whatever is going through their head must be painful. I'm going to just give them a wide berth and I hope they feel better, rather than arguing with them to prove ourselves. So that's my question to you. And when you find yourselves drawn into that urge to prove yourself, I'm going to ask you to turn inward and like put a stop to it, like put a pause on the conversation that you're having and look inward and ask yourself, what is it that I need to prove to myself? And is there a way I can approach this with more belief in myself? My height is very vulnerable to me. I just want to say, you are a friggin' firecracker and you have so much power, and it doesn't matter the package that it comes in, but I really feel you, and encourage you to do, whatever feels good to like help boost you around that sense of vulnerability. I guess it's because they think I'm like 13 and they write me off. Well, you know what? Fuck them. That's what I have to say. And I know that maybe what doesn't sound constructive, but it's like, you don't have to write yourself off because others do. And you don't have to, like, if you walk in expecting people to write you off, there are people who will perceive that self-esteem thing as being the truth. If you walk in expecting and demanding to be taken seriously, and I know this is something you are capable of, there's a subset of people who will still won't. And all you know is like, I'm not going to fuck with those people. You just know I'll move on and focus on the people who are taking me seriously. And it's a more pleasant way to live life. And I want to tell you too, everyone doesn't have to buy into you for you to have a successful life. You can just disregard the people who don't. Anyway, I'm here for every second of your big empowerment glow up. I've been like cheering you on from my computer at home, as introverts do. All right, I know we have at least one more person. Let's see. I want to make sure I don't leave anyone else. I know Chaka asked for a card, and I'm not sure if Emily wanted a card. Oh, and Noreen wants a card. Okay, so let me pull a card for you, Noreen. And I'm going to scroll and see if you asked a particular question. I do not see a question from Noreen. Okay. I got you. All right, I don't see a question. I'm just pulling a card for you. And then I'm going to pull a card for Chaka. Because no, you don't have a question. Okay. Emily, if you ask for a card, tell me, because I want to pull a card for you, but I don't want to bully you into taking a card if you don't want one. So let me know. Noreen, here is your card. Your card is the 3 of Pentacles. Right now, your journey can best be moved forward by collaboration. I'm trying to hold this so that both Instagram and everyone else can see it. You will notice there are 3 figures around a cauldron right now. One is consulting, like probably the spell recipe, right? One's like reading this scroll. Someone else is doing something with the cauldron. And this guy, like, I don't know what he's doing. Maybe he's praying, maybe he's doing an incantation. Everyone is doing a different thing. And together they are creating, maybe he's just like, wow, look at this friggin' magical gold stuff we just created, right? Together they are creating something that they couldn't create alone. So whatever you are wanting to move forward in your life right now, collaboration is the key. This doesn't have to mean giving away your power or your ownership. It does mean that if there's an aspect you're struggling with, instead of focusing on that lack, instead of going like, this part is hard for me, is there a way you can just find someone who's good at it and be like, hey, can you help me with this one thing? I'm good at this and this, and you're good at this, and like, I just want to do this. Can we do it together? That's really valuable right now. Asking for help is valuable, and that's like hard for a lot of people. But it's also, I want to tell you, when someone asks you for help because you're good at something, when someone's like, you're the person I've seeked out because, you're really good at this and I really value you, that's usually a good feeling for most people. It's usually not a bad feeling to be asked for help. So I want you to like have that grain of salt in your mind. If you're like struggling with, no, I should be able to do it all myself. We don't have to do everything ourselves. It's okay to ask for help. It doesn't undermine our accomplishments. It's okay to seek out someone's expertise rather than our own, because we don't have to be good at every single thing forever. In fact, it's really, really healthy to allow ourselves to really maximize our strengths by focusing on them and allow ourselves to get help for the other things. So the 3 of Pentacles really advises you that whatever you're trying to do right now, you can supercharge this by bringing in other people. It doesn't mean they have to take ownership over something that's just yours. Like you can have an arrangement where someone just helps out with their one part and then goes away, and whatever you end up coming up with. But it's helpful right now. Getting a second or even a third perspective is useful to you in moving forward. Melissa, it's absolutely not too late to ask for a card. I got you. I have one person before you. I'm going a little late today because it's been 2 weeks and I miss y'all. I have Chaka next, and then I have you on deck. And if you have a particular question, please just let me know. Okay, I know I had... I'm going to scroll back up to where Chaka asked for a card and see... Oh, Chaka says I can fill Angie in because Angie was on the phone for her card. Okay, Chaka just had cat question mark. The cat was the question. I don't think cats are ever a question. Cats are an exclamation. All right, Chaka, here is your card. Your card is the Six of Swords. This is a card that's been coming up as a little bit of a stalker card, not for me, but in my readings for, people generally. It's been coming up a little bit, and I want to tell you something. I have a video about this coming out in a little bit, and my patrons have already seen it, but everyone else will see it soon. 2022 is a 6 year. The numerology of 2022 is 2 + 0 + 2 + 2, and that makes it a 6 year. You can feel free to Google like numerology of 6, but what I have to tell you is that this is really about giving and receiving everything. Help, emotional generosity, practical generosity, like doing something for someone that they can't do for themselves, or that they can do, but you're doing it anyway just to be nice, just to take a little burden off of them. And the Six of Swords, which is about giving and receiving literal rescue. The Six of Swords is, it's really like, it's in this cute little steampunk way. We have like this Hagrid style motorcycle with a sidecar here, where literally this person is driving this magical thing, and this woman and her child are like sitting in the sidecar, not looking friggin' happy. Like, obvious, like there is an element of rescue. This guy is driving them away from something and to safety. In our lives, we need to rescue, and we need to be rescued. Judith says 6 is the Lovers, and what card better represents like give and take, giving and receiving, than the Lovers, right? Because being in love is not, it's not something we do to keep score. It's like, I'm going to give to you because I love you, and you're going to give to me because you love me, and hopefully that works out, right? If you're in love with an emotionally good person. It's about, relationships are about give and take, and they're not about keeping score. So it's a healthy expression of that. So let me tell you about the Six of Swords. Are there areas in life where you prefer to be the rescuer rather the rescued? Are there areas in life where you can only envision yourself as the rescued, not the rescuer? And do you feel shame about that? I want to ask you about your perception of the concept of needing help. And needing maybe big help, needing someone to pull you up and help you and rescue you in some way. And I want to ask you if that is a shame trigger for you, because it is for a lot of people. And yet I bet that you can put yourself in the other person's shoes very easily, the position of like, yes, let me help, let me be the rescuer, let me pull you out of yourself and help you. And I bet that actually feels wonderful to you. When people help us, we are giving them a gift. That doesn't mean that it's always easy to help someone, but we help people a little bit. Of course it's about them, but it's about us too. It allows us to show up and be our best selves for somebody else, and that's a beautiful gift to give to someone. So I want to ask you this week to kind of grapple with your idea of what it feels like to need help, and whether you can sit with that and allow yourself to embrace the idea of letting other people help you in big and small ways, as you would cheerfully help them in big and small ways. That is my question for you this week. Melissa, I'm going to pull a card for you. This is our last card for the day. By the way, if you joined late, the card for the week for everyone is the Tower. It is time for us to look at structures in our lives. And I'm talking about real structures, and I'm talking about like, societal structures, like institutions, and I'm talking about things like structural inequity and structural racism and structural sexism, and I'm talking about structures of beliefs we have built up for ourselves. I'm talking about all of that. It's time to look at this kind of status quo and ask ourselves, what stays and what goes? Like, is there stuff we can identify within the status quo of our lives, big or small, that sucks and needs to go? And can we find the courage to take steps towards tearing it down so that something healthier can grow and we can thrive better? That is the message of the Tower for us this week. Chaka says, it can be a shame trigger. Absolutely. I will look at both ways of that. Thank you. You are welcome. By the way, everyone, I really feel like I'm giving you all big shadow work homework this week, and I'm sorry. That's just what the cards are telling me. I think that's the energy right now of the moment. We all want this to be a really We want to see change. We're tired. We've had a couple of shitty years. We don't want 2022 to be a shitty year, but the first week of it hasn't been like, looking at the headlines and everything and Omicron and everything that's happening, and teachers leaving education because of feeling unsafe in schools and all this stuff. Just look at all the stuff that's happened. I'm like, ooh, 2022. And I think what has to happen is we all have to do our inner work and ask ourselves if there's a way we can make this a good year for ourselves anyway. And I believe we can. Anyway, that's what's going on, in my personal opinion, in the universe. Melissa, here is your card. Melissa, your card is the King of Wands. Let me talk to you about this. This can be someone in your life. It can be you. And I'm going to encourage you to have the belief that both things are true, and this should be a shifting role in our relationships. The King of Wands knows what the hell he wants and gets what the hell he wants. The King of Wands leads with charisma. His power comes from his personality and his intentionality and his strong and unwavering belief in himself. When he decides something is right, it's not just that he's like, oh, I really like this, I should embody this principle. He's like, this is it. This is it, my way or the highway. This is what must be. And his unwavering belief is what pulls it forward. Now, that can be a challenging person. And he can also be hot-headed, by the way, because he believes so strongly that when other people feel differently, or when he meets resistance, or when he struggles to reach a goal that he's set for himself, he can get real frustrated. This can be a person that is difficult to be in relationship with, and a person that is wonderful to be in a relationship with. And what helps is when both parties involved allow themselves and the other to be the King of Wands at different times, right? Relationships are a constantly shifting lead, and should be. There are times when someone feels so strongly about something and we don't give a shit and we can just let them have it, And there are times when we feel deeply about something and we know, okay, I'm willing to compromise on X, Y, and Z, but not on this. This needs to be the way it needs to be. And I'm here to say that's all okay. Everything doesn't have to be a 50-50 compromise. Instead, let's have this nuanced idea that we can have a shifting lead in our relationships, in our lives, in our dynamics. And this card is asking you to sometimes take that lead and sometimes honor that lead in other people. It is asking you to embody the King of Wands and identify what you feel so passionate about that it should be that to say no to it would be a deal breaker for you. Identify where your strong convictions and your strong passions are and honor those and show up for them with every bit of your soul. And also to recognize when someone else is in that space and to honor that in them as well. That is what tarot has to say to you today. A lot of duality today. Okay, my loves. It's 12:30. I went a little long today because I just love you. I'm so glad to be back. I have a couple of public service announcements. I am going to be releasing a new video on my YouTube tomorrow on Sunday. So if you could do it, it would mean a lot to me if you would go to YouTube right now and search the words Sassafras Tarot, 2 words, and find me and subscribe to me. My YouTube is still too small to have a pretty YouTube link. However, it is in my link tree. If you're on Instagram, you can find it by going to the link in my bio. And if you go to YouTube and search Sassafras Tarot, you'll find it. So I have a new video coming out. I think you'll like it, and I would love it if you would subscribe today so that you get notified. Also, if you enjoy the Witchy Weather Report, I have a podcast. It's called Sassafras Cast. My last episode that came out at the end of December is about how to have a supercharged year with magical and mundane ways. And it really breaks down goals that are rooted in shame and instead helps us have holistic and healthy goals and do so in a fun, witchy way that both keeps us motivated and feels good, feels like a joy instead of feeling like a stressor. So I hope you will listen to that. It's Sassafras Cast, all one word, wherever you listen to podcasts. Finally, here's my final public service announcement. I have a Patreon, and on that Patreon, my patrons get early access to my episodes. They also get to sit in the live virtual studio audience for the episode, so they can get their questions and comments into the episode in real time. And there's other benefits as well. For at certain levels, I pull a card for you every month. Certain levels get a discount on readings from me. And right now, I am doing something new for my patrons every single day. I'm calling it Patron Palooza for the month of January. So they are getting fresh content and a card of the day every single day. And if you want to get in on that, now is a wonderful time to do it. It's $1 a month or more. It's like a super low paywall. There's a wonderful Discord community that's a lot like this, a lot like the community around the Witchy Weather Report. It's like very loving, very compassionate, and very thinky and smart. So I would love to have you in that community. Patreon.com, I'll put that in the comments for y'all. Sassafras Tarot is where you can go, because I just realized it's not actually scrolling across the bottom. And if you're on Instagram, that link is in my bio. And that's all. That's all the public service announcements I have for you. Thanks for sitting through them. Melissa says, I'm getting chills. Thank you, Rory. That makes my overthinking to only better thoughts. Oh, I love that sentence. Thank you, Melissa. Please honor your power. Okay. I will be back next week, 11 a.m., same bat time, same bat channel. That's Eastern time, so please translate appropriately for your time zone, because my brain is in a fog and I can't do it right now. 11 a.m. Eastern. And I look forward to seeing you again. Please make sure you are, wherever you are, like me, follow me, subscribe to me, whatever buttons there are to push, please push the button, because I want you to get notified so that we can have this experience again. I love you. Have a wonderful week. Enjoy your shadow work this week. That seems to be what the universe wants us to do. Farewell, farewell.